All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-log show where we're here to answer your questions. We usually try to save those for the end, but we will also go game by game and kind of talk through some of the changes that we are making in the domination station. B-Dubs, Brandon, it's been a little bit. Good to have you back. How are you feeling though? 6-game slate, not too much. A little bit of news, not too crazy though. It's just I feel like a regular slate.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this slate because there's some ugly plays we'll have to kind of stomach
You like
throughout
it
some of
though.
these games.
Deep
But
down, you like it.
yeah, I do like it that it's a 6 game or two. So overall, it's not looking too bad.
Yeah. I like these weird 6-game slates where you're playing some really gross names that no one wants to play. If I'm uncomfortable because I'm playing low-owned guys and not uncomfortable because I'm playing chalky guys that I barely know, I take that as a win. It's the same way for NFL. I like hitting on those small, low-owned plays. So, yeah, William, good to be back. Appreciate y'all. Jose, I see you bright and early saying, of the cheap guys, who are you running with? We will get there, I promise. But that was a good hint. Let's just jump right into it. First game on the slate, we have the Sixers going up against the Hornets. The Sixers team, man, they for the life of them can not get their shit together. We have Joel Embiid out, Jarrett McCain out. Those are two guys who do a lot for this team. Caleb Martin's not playing, and the rest of these guys don't matter. Looks like you are looking to attack the Hornets. For those of you that don't know, we're sharing Brandon's screen right now. This is what he's done in the optimizer. I'll mention what I've done. And if you're wondering where you find this domination screen, domination station screen, click the link in the description. Use promo code BDUB, BDUBB for a 10% discount on that subscription. And then you have access to the domination station, the Discord, where we're updating everyone all the time and answering your questions there too. So jumping in back into it, what are you doing, Brandon? Who are you liking?
So first I'll start with Yabusele. As y'all can see, I just gave him the thumbs down. He wasn't like popping crazy or anything for me. He was actually showing around field weight, but I'm just really not a fan of his price tag. I know Embiid is out again, so there is a world where he can definitely reach value, but just overall, he hasn't really been paying off this price tag. So I just wanted to lower my exposure to him. And then, as you can see, I forced in all these other starters. So Paul George and Maxey, they're clearly the two best guys on this team and have the most upside. So with Embiid out, more usage is coming their way, and either one of them can easily pay off this price tag against the Hornets. And then Oubre, I feel like, is somebody who always kind of goes under the radar. I know he's has some kind of ownership. He's usually a little bit lower on, but I feel like he's still too cheap for his upside. He can usually get you up to like 40 points. So that's clearly paying off this price here. And then Drummond, willing to take a shot on him. He's just a good points per minute guy. Rack up some rebounds, hopefully some blocks, and potentially get a double-double in this matchup. So I do like all the starters minus Yabusele.
Yeah. It's funny how different we can be sometimes. We usually talk about how we're alike, but right now I am almost the complete opposite of you. For Yabusele, I don't trust him, but he's a little bit cheaper than he's been for a while. He's 5,200, and the matchup against the Hornets isn't the super soft matchup we've known and loved for ages, but it's still not a tough matchup. And so Yabusele, a big, going up against the Hornets, I'm very comfortable having exposure to him. I put a 25% min on him, and he's showing up a little bit more than that, and I'm comfortable with it, especially with him beat out. And then Andre Drummond, he's been lacking upside here recently, but still, I like the matchup. He needs to be efficient with every single minute he has out there, but I have a 10% min on him, trying to make sure he shows up a bit more for me. And then the other starters I don't love as much. Maybe Maxey I could get on board with if LaMelo doesn't play, just because LaMelo is a decent defender. And so with his size and length and stuff like that, so I could see Maxey struggling here. PG I looked at too, but the ownership, couldn't do it, not in this matchup in low total. And Kelly O, I get too, but I just couldn't get on board. I don't think they're bad plays. I just like other guys more on this slate. So that was my thought process there. I don't love the Sixers outside of the bigs. I didn't X them out of my player pool though. And so I still have Maxey showing up in about 2% of my lines, Paul George showing up in 2%, and Kelly O in 3%. So I didn't completely get rid of them. All right, next up we have the Hornets going up against the Sixers. This is one we haven't gotten the LaMelo news yet, which is a little frustrating, but hopefully we'll get that soon. He's
on track to play.
Yeah, he's on track to play. So looking like there probably won't be too much news here. So we'll just kind of take it as is. Trey Mann's out. Grant Williams has been out, unfortunately. But for me, I don't like the Hornets at all. Do you?
There's only one guy who I'll be playing,
Okay.
who I think is still not priced, like compared to his upside, and that's Miles Bridges.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do anything to get any of him. I'll actually be over the field. I think I had like 20-something% on him, so 6,100 is just a good price for him. LaMelo, if he does come back, of course, that takes some usage away, but he can still get his in this spot, I think. But everyone else is just kind of looking ugly. Like Richards and Mark Williams are back, and that kind of muddies up the front court. And then Brandon Miller still priced up as if Melo was out, so definitely can't get there either. So
he's way
overall, this team is pretty ugly.
Agreed. And I like the Miles Bridges call too. In the domination station, I didn't do anything to him. He's shown up in about 7% of my lines. I think because of guys like Yabusele and some of the other guys that we'll touch on that I'm forcing exposure to in some of the later games, that's part of why he's not showing up quite as much for me. But I think you're right. 6,100, he has plenty of upside, especially if this game stays close like it's supposed to. So, yeah, I don't hate that call at all. I like it. All right, next up we have the Heat going up against the Pistons. Pistons have been a better defensive team this year. Slowly but surely, we have to start taking them seriously at some point. Game totals also pretty low, still at 219, so hard to get overly excited about it. But like you, there's still some pieces I like here. Who are you looking at, man?
So Duncan Robinson is another guy I lowered. He was showing up as a core player for me, and I definitely don't want that. So I will be under the field on him. If he was in the 3K range, I feel a little more comfortable going somewhat heavy on him, but he's just way too volatile for me, especially at 4,100. Drew Smith, of course, didn't have to do anything with him. He's 3,800, been seeing around 30 minutes, and Spoelstra has been liking him. So willing to eat the chalk there. He makes lines work. We don't really have much value throughout the slate. So he's definitely going to be one of those uncomfortable plays. But situations like this, I just don't really think too much about it, and I just roll with it.
Yeah.
And then I do like Bam quite a bit as well. I put a 20% min on him. He's in pretty good form, and he has 50 to 60 point upside. So I think he does well in this spot. And then Hero was the other guy that I wanted to take a shot on and just put a 10% min on him. I just like his upside as well, and still decent price tag on him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I like a lot of the calls that you mentioned here. For me, I have a 10% min on Tyler Hero. The Pistons, their defense has gotten better, but you can shoot threes against a good defensive team. He also has just been in pretty solid form last few games, and so I want to make sure I'm forcing some exposure to him. Bam, I almost was with you, and he's showing up naturally in about 10% of my lines, not doing anything to him in the DS. Slow pace game. Matchup isn't super soft in comparison to some of the other centers we have on this slate. I just didn't do anything to him. Same thing with Jimmy Butler. Didn't get there. Terry Rozier was showing up a little bit for me, but he's now all but gone, which I'm completely fine with. Duncan Robinson, I do have a 40% exposure maximum on. I'm allowing myself to get a little bit above the field just because he is so cheap. He helps me pay up for some of the guys I want to pay up for. So I'm keeping him, but I don't feel great about it. Like you, Drew Smith is the better play, but I still limited my exposure to him around 55% just to make sure I don't have too much of a guy who could fail coming off the bench. But I do think this is still a pretty solid spot for him. Drew Smith is one of your better value options on the slate. So those are the guys I'm looking at. Let me make sure no one else snuck in. I have like 1% Jaime, 1% Highsmith, but not a guy that I'm looking to play too much of. Okay. Next up, we have the Pistons going up against the Heat. This is a team that I like more than I should, maybe. I don't know. But I like Detroit tonight. Tobias Harris is out, which makes me feel a little bit more comfortable taking some shots on these guys. Jaden Ivey is someone I like being over the field on. We know he has plenty of upside, and he also sees the highest increase in usage when Harris is out. Cade Cunningham was showing up for me naturally around field weight exposure, but he's now all but gone from my lines. I like the spot for Cade at 9,600. I don't think he's a bad play. I'm going to put a 15% min on him just to kind of add him into the mix as another pay up option with plenty of upside. Let's see. Anything else I want to mention on these guys? Not really. Oh, Malik Beasley. He's going to be a core play tonight at 4,600, playing solid minutes. Again, it only helps that Tobias Harris is out. I have to play Malik Beasley, even though it never makes me feel great. It just makes sense, and so I'm going to do that. Anyone else you like here, man?
I definitely like those guys you mentioned. Beasley would be a core play for me too. When he's seen 20 plus minutes, he's been really solid so far this season. I gotta have Cade. I put a 15% min on him. Mm-hmm. He has triple double upside, and he has like 60 to 70 point upside as well. So, not my favorite matchup for him, but he's just one of those guys where I don't really care who he plays. And then one guy I put him in on just because Tobias is out. I wanted to take a shot on one of the cheapies. Mm-hmm. And then that was I decided to go with Simone Fontecchio. I put a 10% min on him. I think he'll be the main cheapie who sees more minutes off the bench and almost man price. So willing to take a shot there.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I was looking at him and Tim Hardaway. They both
like them too.
Yeah, they both made me feel a little gross. But let me look a little bit closer on Fontecchio. I guess I'll say it right.
I had a little Hardaway too, but I didn't force him in. He was like 2% or something like that.
Yeah, Simone does like Fontecchio a little bit. Let me see. I don't know. I still I like the call, but I don't think I can get on board quite yet. But next up we have, did I talk about? Yeah, I talked about them. All right. So for the Cavs going up against Brooklyn, the Cavs are a little boring tonight just because everyone's healthy for the most part, besides Max Strus, who's out, but that doesn't really move the needle too much because they have solid depth and he's been out for a lot of this season. I didn't take any shots here, but did you?
Surprisingly, no, not even on Donovan at all. Everyone's price is just where it should be, and I just don't see the value on this side of the ball.
Yeah, low total game, matchup, pace are all just kind of blah. Hard to get overly excited about the Cavs tonight. The one guy who does have a softer matchup is LeVert, and he's coming off the bench more than likely, and I just don't like this spot. So yeah, it's pretty much that simple for me. And then for Brooklyn, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. This is where I start to have more plays I think stand out significantly more. For Brooklyn, we know Schroeder was traded. That was pretty big for this team just because he's been doing so much for them lately. Zaire Williams is out. Cam Thomas is out. Those are two guys who do a lot for this team as well. And Bogdanovich has been out for a while. So with all of that, and then looking at what the Nets have left, and they're all low owned, you have to take some shots here. Who are you liking here for the Nets?
So y'all might throw up a bit when I say this first name, but Ben Simmons, unfortunately. I did put
We're
a
fortunate.
10%. Yeah. I did put a 10% min on him. Even though he's afraid to shoot the ball, he can still rack up other stats, assists, rebounds. He can do enough to pay off this price tag. And with Schroeder gone, the team will definitely need him to be a little more involved. Second shot I took, which I wish he was a bit cheaper, but I still think he can pay off his price tag. Shake Milton, I did put a 5% min on him. Just same reason Schroeder's gone, so they're gonna need these guards to kind of step it up big time.
Yep. David, I know things change so fast. Like you think you know somebody, and then they switch up on you, just like that. But yeah, for me, I'm with you. I really like Ben Simmons today. I put a 15% min on him just because I do feel pretty strongly. Matchup's tough. He doesn't like to shoot, but he should have an increased usage just in general, more ball handling duties. And hopefully he'll be slightly more aggressive, but we know he won't be from a scoring perspective. And then I also have a 10% min on Cam Johnson. He's someone who actually can see an increase in shooting opportunities with guys like Schroeder out. And then Shake Milton, I have a 5% min on as well. I like the fact that he'll see an increase in minutes here. And again, there's usage to be had here if anyone wants to be that guy. And so that's part of why I wanted to take shots on Cam Johnson and Shake Milton. And with them being so low owned, if they don't work out, it doesn't really kill us. It just, we took a shot and it missed. But I like these guys, all three of them just being sneaky plays on this slate. And I think that's it. Next up, we have the Bulls going up against the Raptors. I said that last game is when things started to get good with the Nets, but this game, we have two teams that play at a fast pace and two teams that just don't play defense and guys that can score on both sides, which is nice. So this is a game I like a lot. It's the highest total game on the slate. Of course, there are caveats that makes everything more complicated. Zach LaVine is questionable unless we got any news on that, Brandon. Did I miss something?
Not yet.
Yeah, unfortunate. He's questionable. That actually is a really big thing for this team. I think most of us will have exposure to the Bulls, but you will want significantly more exposure if LaVine gets ruled out. But what did you do here?
Before I talk about the Bulls, we did just get news LaMelo will have a minutes restriction. I just saw that.
Oh, JM, that answers your question right there. He is on a minutes limit. Should you hammer his PRA on underdog at 33.5? That makes me nervous. I probably wouldn't, not gonna lie. Wouldn't be me unless it was barely any money at all. Yeah. So we'll dodge that one. So what were you doing with the Bulls?
So Josh Giddey, I do like him quite a bit tonight. I put a 20% min on him just to make sure I don't dip under the field. Mm-hmm. I still like his price tag, and he's been playing a little better, and we know what kind of upside he has, 40 to 50 point upside. Kobe White, I'm a little more uncomfortable playing just because he hasn't been playing as well, but one thing going for him is he just gets a lot of shots up, and if his shot is falling, he can definitely pay this price tag off as well. LaVine, I'm not going to force him. If he plays and shows up in my lines, I'm okay with it, but he just really hasn't been that great so far. I do like the matchup for him, which is why I'm not going to X him out, but I'm also not going to put him in or bump him up or anything. And then I did put a 10% min on Vooch. I mean, anytime Vooch is this low owned and he's still in the 8K range, I'm just going to take a shot. It's the highest game total on the slate. And we've seen him go under the radar many times and put up 60-point games. So just a no-brainer for me there.
Yep. I didn't even have to look at the slate for that long to realize, oh, I'm playing Vucevic tonight. And I get it. There's a ton of other center options. We don't have a lot of value. So I understand why he's low owned. I just knew That was just a play. I was going to be all over it. So, yeah, Vucevic's one of my favorite plays on the slate. Zach LaVine, I did force exposure to. I have a 12% minimum on him. He's another one of those guys who's questionable a lot, and then he plays and breaks the slate, and I'm like, why didn't I play him in a good matchup? And I'm just not going to be that guy anymore. I'm just going to play him, and if he gets ruled out, I'll make changes. I don't want to make changes, but I will. So 12% min on him, and I did exactly what you did with Josh Giddey and Kobe White. Same exact strat for the same exact reasons. High total game. I'm looking for reasons to play people and not reasons to not play them. So I forced exposure to both of them, even though I never trust either one of them. All right. Next up, we have the Raptors going up against the Bulls. This is a team I honestly didn't have to think about at all, primarily because the DS loves these guys a ton. For those of you that don't know, for the Raptors tonight, they're missing Bruce Brown, Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, guys who do a lot for them. And then also they have the soft matchup against Chicago. What do you do here, though, Brandon?
Luckily didn't have to do too much. Most of these guys are popping naturally. One change I did do, as y'all can see, is I gave Barrett a thumbs down. It's not that I don't like him, but he was showing up as a core play, and I just didn't want him as a core play. So yeah. I'll be around fill weight on him. He can definitely pay this price tag off. I just wish he was a bit cheaper. So I'm just going even on him. And then the two obvious plays, Mogbo and Podol, they're just no-brainers for me. Mogbo, I mean, he's not going to like blow your socks off or anything, but when Barnes is out and he gets to start, he usually does well enough to pay this price tag off too. So kind of like Drew Smith, he's just one of those cheap guys tonight who's going to see a lot of minutes, and he's in a great matchup. So not going to overthink him. And then Podol, he's just a overall solid big. We've seen him be pretty consistent throughout this season, and again, great matchup. So I don't mind Corum Podol either. And then any other guys like Dick who shows up, I'm okay with, but not going to force him in. And I think I had a little Walter showing up as well too, but they won't be priorities for me.
Yeah, it's crazy. When talking about overthinking, Mogbo was someone that I almost overthought because he hasn't had a lot of upside so far this season. But great matchup. He's only 4,400. It makes sense. So that's just one I'm not going to overthink for once in my life. Jakob Poeltl, great play. Fantastic matchup. Good price tag. RJ Barrett, I absolutely love on this slate. He sees the highest increase in usage of all the guys out, and he's been in good form, only 9,100 for there really being no one else on this team who should take his usage away. His shot could be falling, and so, or could not be falling. And so that's the only reason why I don't have more exposure, but he'll still be a core play for me. And then some of these other guys that are showing up a little bit, Jacoby Walter, right around field percentage, field weight around 10%. It is what it is. Don't love it, but I'm not going to do anything to take him out because highest game total on the slate. Grady Dick, 6%. That's about it for me. And then none of the other Raptors are showing up, which I'm comfortable with. I have my core three that I like: Mogbo, Poeltl, Barrett. Outside of that, they're just guys in a good environment. But next up, we have the Nuggets going up against the Kings. Another high total fast-paced game. We do have Christian Brown listed as questionable, which could impact things on this slate a good bit. But what was your strat here?
So I put a 25% man on Jokic. I know you might look at his price tag and think like that's a little too high for me, but I don't really care. I don't ever care about his price tag. We know what he's been doing this season. He might have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths after last game. He only put up 30 DK points, which is kind of crazy, but I do think he bounces back tonight. This is definitely my second favorite game on the slate, and I think it'll be a little more competitive. Both teams are kind of even, I would say, on paper. So I do like him a good bit. And then I didn't really do anything else to anyone. I am getting a little bit of Gordon and MPJ. I don't mind them. Not a huge fan of Jamal Murray. And then if Christian Brown ends up being ruled out, I'd be willing to play some Julian Strother at 3,800.
Yeah, that he has a chance to start, so that's definitely a very viable play. It's crazy. If I could look at Josh Allen the way I look at Nikola Jokic, I'll probably be a much better NFL DFS player because every time I see Josh Allen on a slate, I'm like, wow, he's so expensive for a quarterback. Thankfully, I mean, I play guys like Aaron Rodgers who are cheaper and have similar upside, so I still have slates, but you can't get that Josh Allen upside from anybody else on these slates. Same thing with Nikola Jokic, you know? There's no one else who has 100-point upside on this slate, knock on wood. And so I have a 30% min on Jokic just to make sure I'm at least around field weight, hopefully. And so that was it for the Nuggets. You went through these guys. I didn't do anything to force exposure to any of them. Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. are showing up a little bit. If Brown gets ruled out, my interest in Aaron Gordon would go up a little bit because I feel like he's just too cheap. But the ownership is the main reason I'm not forcing exposure to him right now. So it's really just Nikola Jokic, and then we'll see what happens with Brown on the injury news. Model liked Brown a little bit, but with him going and battling through that back injury, he's hard to trust right now. So I can't do it. All right. Next up, we have the Kings, a team that I like more than the DS does because the DS did not like this team at all. I had to force exposure to every single person that is showing up. For Sacramento, the big piece of news here is Keegan Murray. He's listed as questionable. That definitely could impact things a good bit. Kevin Huerter's out, but that doesn't move the needle too much for this team these days. For me in the DS, I forced exposure to only two guys, and it's pretty matchup driven, as you could probably guess. De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. I have a 20% min on both of them. You can beat this Nuggets team from a fantasy standpoint with the backcourt. Their front court is pretty tough to deal with two pretty solid defenders and Jokic and Aaron Gordon. I don't even want to sleep on MPJ that much. He has a lot of stamina. He moves around a lot, but I like picking on their front or their backcourt. So that was my strat, forcing in Fox, forcing in Monk, and then letting the DS decide what's going to happen with the other guys. And like I said, that means none of them show up besides Keon Ellis at 2%. So, but it looks like you like somebody else. What was your thought process here?
Yeah, so I like Monk quite a bit as well. I actually didn't have to force him in, and like almost double the field on him. So he's definitely one of my favorite plays on this side of the ball. I did put a 20% min on Fox. I just love his price tag with the upside he has. And then
I don't like to talk about Fox too much because as soon as I do, he just never comes through. So I'm just like, I did something with him. Let's just not think about him and he'll come through.
Yeah. He can definitely let you down. But like I said, I think this would be a pretty competitive game. And I think he'll be one of the ones who kind of goes off here. And then I was going back and forth on Sabonis, but I ended up just putting a 10% min on him. I do like other centers a bit more on this slate, but he's just one of those guys where he has crazy upside, and we've seen guys do well against Jokic too. Jokic doesn't really scare me too much defensively, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a smash night for him as well. I was thinking about DeMar too, but then I looked at his price tag and I was like, yeah, no, I don't see him paying that off tonight. And then I do have a little Keon Ellis showing up too, but nothing major there.
Yeah, not worth talking about that one.
Yeah,
I hear you on the Sabonis call. We've seen Sabonis do well against Jokic a few times before too, if I'm not mistaken. So not crazy. Just for me, I just like a lot of centers. So can't do it today, but not a bad call.
Zach LaVine is out.
Zach LaVine's out. Thank God we got that news early.
Changes things.
Oh, okay. We'll go back and look at the Bulls. I feel like we've had the same thing play out at least 2 other times already this season, and we haven't even done half the shows so far this season, but this has happened so
Yep.
many times. But yeah, we'll go back around for that. For the Utah Jazz, this is a team that I did not have as much exposure to as I thought I would originally on the slate. We have Jordan Clarkson listed as probable, so he'll probably play. I'm not playing any of the Jazz. Are you?
I'm playing Walker Kessler.
That's your
He's
guy.
just been pretty solid lately. I still think he's priced too low for his upside. He can definitely get a double-double here tonight, and we know he can rack up on blocks as well. So willing to take a shot on him, and he'll be one of my leverage plays. I'm going double the field on 15% man. I did think about Keontae just because the last like 3 or 4 games, he's gotten like around 30 to 40 DraftKings points. So I was willing to play him in the form he's in, but ultimately didn't get there. But he'd probably be the only other guy I take a shot here. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of off the marketing train. His price keeps pulling me in, but he just hasn't shown like any signs of what he could do or what he was doing last season. So thought about him for about 5 seconds and then brought myself back to earth when I realized how bad he's been. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his back that's kind of been hurting his performance or what, but he just not cutting it this year.
He shows up like once a month, right towards the end. I mean, if you're Kevin and you're looking for a pattern on the 23rd of October and the 23rd of November, those are the 2 times he's had 50-point performances so far this season. So I guess we just need to wait until next week, December 23rd, for the next time to play Marketing. But seriously, though, Marketing has just not been that guy, like you said. And they're all facing a tough Clippers defense, play at a very slow pace. Not a team I'm excited to play tonight, but they're so low owned. You're not crazy for taking a shot here, especially Kessler in particular. He definitely has some solid upside, and he's shown it this season. So, yeah, it's 600. That's not bad at all. But they were a wash for me. The Clippers side of this game, though, this is where we're looking to force exposure. Primarily because the Jazz are just so bad. They're so bad that I'm really just hoping and praying this game can stay close so we don't lose exposure to some of these guys from like a minute standpoint. But we'll start with you, Brandon. I know it looks like you're looking at Harden. Anyone else? Or why Harden?
Um, it's just due to the matchup. Utah is just a bad team, and we know the upside Harden has. So wanted to get some exposure to him. Then 2 other guys I really like that didn't really have to do anything to. That's Kevin Porter Jr. He's another one of those cheap guys who's been seeing solid minutes, and he's in good form too. Last 3 games, he scored over 30 DraftKings points. So if he can do that again, then that would be awesome at his price tag. And then Norman Powell, he's still at a decent price as well. He can be a little inconsistent here and there too, but he's one of those guys that's been stepping up so far this season with Kawhi and some of the other guys are missing. So I'll definitely have a good chunk of him as well. And then everyone else, I'm just kind of letting the DS dictate how much I get.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of these guys. Kevin Porter Jr. is a core play for me tonight. I really like him. Norman Powell is right there close to it. I have around 48%. And then James Harden, I also put a 15% min on. He's showing up around 15%, which is fine. Slightly under the field there, but hopefully the ownership will be a little bit lower than 18%. 15 just felt right for me. And then Zubac is the one guy I like a good bit. Like I said, the Jazz are just not a great defensive team in general. They've given up the 10th most fantasy points to centers so far this season. And so hopefully that trend continues and my guy Zubac can have decent upside at 7,100. So like I said, there's a lot of centers to like on this slate, but I want to make sure Zubac was in the mix for me as well. And then that's pretty much it. I don't think there's any other Jazz players sneaking in here. But let's go ahead and get to some of these questions because I put them off for a little bit. We'll answer Jose's question because he was first. The cheap guys. Who are we running with? I mean, I think we touched on them a good bit. I don't know if they count as cheap, but they're cheap. We have like Norman Powell, or not Norman Powell, but Mogbo at 4,400, Drew Smith at 3,800. That's pretty cheap. And Malik Beasley at 4,600 are really the main three I like. You can even add Kevin Porter Jr. in there at 4,400 too. Those are really the core value plays I'm rocking with, but anyone you want to add there, Brandon, or anyone you didn't like in that list? I think we're both on the same cheap place.
Same exact answer I was going to give.
Yeah, sweet. Mr. Torn, good to see you, man. He said, is it play Joker or bust fading him? I don't think so. I don't think it's that black or white. Do you, Brandon?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jokic is someone you want to see in your lines, but we don't have so much value where I feel like you're dumb if you don't play him. There's other pay-up options like Harden and who are the other ones? There's Harden and Sabonis, Cade, Barrett. You can even add in there at 9K. So yeah, there's plenty of other options to have a bit more of a balanced approach on the slate. Do you think that you're going to start Jay Crowder? I definitely am not playing Jay Crowder, but will the Kings start Jay Crowder? I have no clue. Do you have any insight, Brandon?
It's possible if Keegan gets rolled out.
Oh, so I would probably have to play him in that.
Yeah, he's 3K flat too, so
damn it.
I wouldn't like it, but it'll be hard not to get some exposure to him.
Jay Crowder in 2024.
It could also be McDermott too. I'm just not sure which way that would go.
Oh, God.
We've seen McDermott start in these spots too. So
okay, let me look a little bit closer at it, a little bit more seriously.
I definitely like Crowder more than McDermott.
Yeah, with him being a flat 3K, that's what keeps him viable. We've seen him play like 20, 27 minutes. He only scores like 15 fantasy points. That wouldn't be great, but hopefully he would see closer to 30, even though we saw that earlier or last season, and he only had 23 fantasy points, which isn't great. But 21 fantasy points, honestly, or 23 would be good for a 3K price tag. So I think, yeah, if he starts, he's viable. And then Doug McDermott, look a little bit closer at him too. Yeah, Doug McDermott, if he starts, he can get 21 fantasy points and call it a day. But dang it, as soon as you think you have the slate and you're feeling comfortable with things, you guys always remind me there's still injury news that matters. So yeah, good call, Jose. I don't know if he'll start, but we'll see. I'm hoping Keegan Murray just plays, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
All right. Luis, what's up, man? He said, sorry, got here late, but how do you feel about LaMelo in the early game? Love him at less than 1% owned against no Embiid Philly. He's a literal dart throw. With him having a minutes limit, it makes me more nervous. We know coaches lie sometimes, though. But what's your thought process here, Brandon?
Yeah, coaches do lie, but it honestly isn't worth the risk, in my opinion. He's 10K. So I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll take shots like that if it just makes a lot of sense to me. Like if a guy was hurt in the last game, but the coach says he's going to play and might be on some sort of limit, I would consider taking a shot on a guy. But once he hits that 10K range plus, I get a lot less likely to take a shot on that guy. And then when a guy's been out for multiple games, I'm not going to play the guy when he's first coming back unless he's like a Donovan Mitchell or John Morant, who's in like that 7 to 8K range, then I'm more willing to take a shot like that. But 10K plus, hard pass for me, man. I wouldn't go there. Levine's out. Appreciate that update, y'all. Jason, J69, good to see you, man. Yeah, I would get some exposure to that last game. Not because it's the hammer game, but it's just a good game to target, especially for the Clippers. You're going to want some exposure to those guys. Thomas Dye, what's up, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Jules, I see you, man. Said no Joker for me today. I get that. Depending on what you're doing, I can understand that thought process. KGZ said, what do you have to have in single entry DraftKings or FanDuel. All right, Brandon, you're a single entry guy here. What do you have to have, or who do you have to have? That makes it make more sense.
I mean, single entry, you don't really have to get too cute. It also depends on what size field you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my best advice I always give is play some chalk with a low owned pivot or two.
Yep.
So like tonight, some must haves I would say would be Mogbo and Podol, Drew Smith, those chalky guys. So
I didn't know how much longer you're gonna go. I was like, you're gonna give a whole lineup away.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with that too. It's literally play chalk, get different in 1 to 2 spots. Now, how you go about that, that's where it's actually harder. That's what everyone needs to figure out. But
Yep.
I think you're right with like the Mogbo call, Jakob Poeltl, those guys. Right now, Jakob Poeltl's in so many of my lines. I want him in my single entry lines too. I might have to cap him though, to be honest, because he's 99%. It's a little wild. Where do you have Jakob?
80%.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a 90% cap because I still like him. I did the same thing to Mogbo, but that's a little bit much. Let's see here. Levine is out. Can we play THT or who gets those minutes? All right, we'll talk about it. Let's look at the Bulls once again on a slate we're doing. Anyone standing out for you right away, Brandon, or do you have any thoughts here?
Buzelis is usually the cheapie I go to when someone's out. They usually lean towards him more when there's more minutes to give out. So I like him a bit more than THT. Also have to keep in mind that Patrick Williams is back as well. So
Yeah.
he could potentially see more minutes tonight as well. He only saw, I think, like 14 or 16 minutes last game. So I don't know if they ramp him up this quick, but it's a potential. And then I think that puts Ayo in play too, because he could potentially see more minutes as well.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think we're looking at Buzelis or Williams as the two likely options for who they're going to start. 3,800, 4,200 is the difference between those two guys. Definitely, they become more DFS viable with Levine out. They don't become must plays, though. I think Buzelis is probably the guy you want some exposure to if he gets the nod to start. Patrick Williams, I'm a little bit more comfortable passing on, but if he starts, I want to make sure I get some exposure. I think you're right about Ayo. You don't want to have 0%. I didn't have any before the Levine news. Now I'm forcing in at least around 10% just because I know that upside is there. Again, this is the game I'm trying to target the most. And so I already had like a 10 or I had a 12% min on Levine. And so that's just moving right over to Ayo. Kobe White was someone that I already liked a lot before we got the Levine news, and I had a 15% min on him. Now I'm going to boost that to around like 30, 35. And then Giddey, same situation. I liked him a lot before, but now I'm going to boost him to like around 25, 30% for my men. Just kind of make sure I'm getting more exposure to all these guys because they see an increasing usage with Levine out. And then Vucevic isn't more probably going to see a boost at all, but I'm going to boost him to around 15% from 10% because he sees an increasing usage too with Levine out. And I just feel like he's under-owned, so it's an excuse for me to get more of him. All right. I wish LaMelo wasn't on a minutes limit. He's going to cook Philly. Hey, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for the Hornets. I don't know if they're going to cook Philly tonight, though. Not going to lie. I think this might be ugly, but we'll see. Godzilla, what's up, man? Hope you're doing all right. No worries, no worries. Jam Giddey, yeah, we're definitely boosting Giddey up. And then I also like to give the DS some time to update itself. I do a refresh, and I'll probably keep refreshing until around 6:30, and then I'll do my final run then to see what the DS does and if it forces anyone else in there too. OG, what's up, man? He said, who's our plays of the day? Not called JP and Drew Hill. Wait, okay, Jakob Poeltl and Drew Smith. All right. Brandon, who's your play of the day?
I'll just go with one of my or other core plays, and I'll say Malik Beasley.
Yeah, I have a ton of Malik Beasley. I'll say I need to refresh right quick, and I'm doing a new run. I want to say RJ Barrett, but I'm not sure if I'm actually over the field on him anymore, so I need to double check that. That's what we're waiting on, David. That's the news we're waiting on, is to see who starts for Levine being ruled out, but we believe it's probably going to be Buzelis or Patrick Williams, depending on how healthy Patrick Williams is my guess. All right. Yeah, I'm not as over on RJ Barrett as I was earlier. I kind of want to just force him into being a core play, but that's getting cute. So I'll just mention my other core play as well. At least as of right now, it's looking like it's probably going to be Norman Powell or Kevin Porter Jr. But I'll just say Norman Powell to answer your question with one guy. David said, is it better for Pat Williams to come off the bench? I wouldn't say so for Pat Williams just in this specific scenario, because I feel like if he was healthy, he would start. And so if he doesn't, I'm more concerned. But
Yep.
do you agree, Brandon, or am I just making up narratives?
Yeah, I was going to say if he still doesn't start in this scenario, I'd be very hesitant just with how long he's been out. And again, he's only played 14 minutes last game. So definitely not a good look for him if he does come off the bench.
Yeah. What? I know you didn't like Barrett too much originally.
So I like him, but I don't want him as a core play. I just don't like his price.
So if it was between Norman Powell and RJ Barrett as two guys, who would you have as a core play?
I mean, on paper, Barrett is the better play, but just due to pricing and making lines work, I would have more Powell, which I do now anyways.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that as like a 1-for-1. I meant more so as like who I have the top 5 most exposure to.
It'd be Powell.
So, yeah, I think I'm gonna do like put a 60% min on Powell just to kind of force him into being a core play for me. But he was originally pretty close to Kevin Porter Jr. and RJ Barrett, and so I'm just hoping I'm making the right call there. I do like that game in the matchup, and he's been really good. So
yeah, like RJ Barrett could very well like break the slate and just go absolutely nuclear tonight. But there's just a lot of guys, or I won't say a lot, but there's a few other guys around his price range that could easily outscore him as well too. So if he does fail, I just don't want him to fail as a core play.
Yeah, we're not getting a discounted RJ Barrett. So I think that's kind of like the key there. And just want to make sure I have like that 50% min on him now. Hopefully that works. All right. What's up, Tattoo? Hope you're doing well, man. Good to see you. I know you have the NHL show on Wednesday or Thursday. I think Thursday. So I want to tune in for that if I can. But I hope you're doing all right, man. What do we think about Clarkson? Jake, good question. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on Jordan Clarkson tonight?
No, I'm not a fan of that team outside of Kessler.
Yeah, I get it. It's disappointing, but again, like Clarkson's a guy that I feel like is kind of becoming semi-irrelevant for DFS here lately because they've just been using a lot of different bodies, but we'll see. Thoughts on Cam Johnson? I like him, Godzilla. I really do. I have a 10% min on him. I think he's a solid play with all the guys out and traded that they have. Do you have any thoughts on him, Brandon?
I wouldn't mind playing him, but I'm just not getting there tonight.
Yeah, can't play everybody. Tattoo, I hear you, man. Any Bam tonight? Brandon, you like Bam a good bit, right?
Yep, I will have 20% of Bam.
Oh man, I'm starting to get a little nervous now. Because my Bam, I was around field weight exposure on Bam. Now I am basically fading him, which, we'll see how that goes, but hopefully it goes well. All right. And then I think maybe we can just both talk about like our favorite low-owned sneaky play to wrap up and end the show. I'll ask this question before I go back to you. I kind of sprung that on you. OG said 8U2's doing NFL tonight? Who y'all playing? We'll start with Brandon. I don't play NFL showdowns anymore, primarily because we do this, like the NBA content and stuff. So the showdowns for NFL, I just don't spend as much time on as I used to. But I like showdowns, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you who's playing. Do you know, Brandon? It's a 2-gamer, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a 2-gamer. I think one of them is the Vikings and Bears, and what's the other one? Falcons and Raiders. Yeah, I'm not playing it.
Yeah, that doesn't look like 2 games I would be excited to watch.
Yeah, I play every Sunday, but I'm not a huge fan of showdowns or 2-gamers. Like, nothing else has to be going on for the night for me to play a 2-gamer.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I've had a decent amount of success with showdowns, so I really should play them, but they take so much research to like really know every single player who might get the ball, really dig into those matchups and who's sneaky. And so I would rather just focus on NBA, to be honest. Tattoo said, let me know who y'all need to fail and I'll play them and they'll suck. And who do you not want me to touch? If you could play Bam, that'd be great. I didn't mean to fade him, but that's the way it's looking right now. Anyone you want to fail, Brandon? Or
Duncan Robinson.
That'll be great for you. Duncan, he fell a good bit for me to now just being around 24% without doing anything. So he's not showing up as much as he was earlier. Crazy. Things change fast in this. Watch hockey. Maybe one of these days, man. You are too. No worries. Good luck, OG. Hope you do well tonight. David said, if Pat Williams does start, which player do you prefer for FanDuel GPP? Pat Williams or Mogbo? For me, it's going to be Mogbo.
Yeah, still Mogbo for sure.
Yeah, Pat Williams is still a relatively low usage player. Granted, without Levine, that does go up, but he's not a core player or anything. Just someone I want to see some exposure to. And then, appreciate it, Tattoo. Podal said, KJ said, Podal over Bam.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Tattoo, I see you, man. I wish I could go to those hockey games, but busy life, man. Busy life. All right. Sweet. Appreciate y'all for sticking it out with us. Hopefully we can crush tonight, Monday night. So I know there's never as many of y'all in here on Mondays, but hopefully those of you who are playing both NFL and NBA crush, but especially y'all who are sticking to NBA tonight, get it. All right. See y'all later.
Big time, knowing that diamonds in my teeth, I got a lot of shine.